So, how long does it take to become X tennis player? How long does it take? I'm going to explain in this video exactly how long it takes and why people are so hung up on technique, improvement, and this and that, and this and that, whatever else, whatever the fuck else they can come up with. Okay? It takes approximately 2/3 to 4 years to to play 4-0 tennis, depending on how much you play. So let's say semi-regularly. Let's break this down. Semi-regularly, it takes about 3 to 4 years to become a 4-0, to play 4-0 where you feel like you belong, and the other person feels like you belong, etc. We'll use the USTA rankings since that's what most people are using. So if you are 8 years old, you're 8 years old, you're really into sports or you're into games, you play sports, whatever, and you start playing tennis semi-regularly. By the time you're 12 years old, you will be a 4-0. You can play with 4-0, with most 4-0s, with some exceptions, obviously, some 4-0s that maybe hit like extremely hard. The 12-year-old might have a hard time with it. But generally speaking, start at 8 years old, 12 years old, you could be a 4-0. I don't care how many lessons you take. I don't care if you take no lessons. No lessons. You play semi-regularly with your dad or your mom or your buddy who's also 9 years old. 3 to 4 years, you're a 4-0. No lessons. Let's say you are in high school. You're a freshman. This happens a lot. You start at 14 years old, 15 years old. Play semi-regularly. By the time you're 18, you're a 4-0. When I say semi-regularly for high school kids, just playing during your season is not going to be enough. That's probably not going to cut it. Semi-regularly meaning you play year round, or you obsess over it for 6 months a year, something like that. And by the time you're a senior, you're a 4-0, or approximately around there. Let's say you start when you're 30. A lot of guys start when they're 30, late 20s, 30, in their early 30s. They have to pick up, they're on a schedule. They want to pick up something that occupies their time, that they can stay fit and have fun, hang out with people. Start at 30, 4 years later, you're a 4-0. Unless you're some kind of athlete. Maybe there's just, there's exceptions. If you're 4-0 and you just played basic sports, you're an average guy who played sports here and there, whatnot, 4 years, you're a 4-0. If you played Division I football, okay, in 4 years, you might be better than a 4-0. So we're not counting those people. We're talking about average people. Average people who didn't play collegiate sports, or that don't have some kind of freak gene. But even then, generally speaking, 4 years. Okay, I just broke it down for you. Now, if they are not average, let's say below average of some case, they're not going to get to 4-0. They're never going to get to 4-0. It's never going to happen. But usually you can get to 4-0. This is for guys. I'm speaking for guys. It's probably the same for women as well. I've seen this with children. I've seen this with adults, mostly men, but definitely children. Same thing. Children need 3 or 4 years to get to a 4-0, and that's pretty good. That's a pretty good level. And then let's say you want to be a 4-5. How long is that going to take? It's going to take 5 to 6 years. 4 to 6 years. 4 to 6 years. Call it 6 years. Now I'm going somewhere with this. You probably heard this before. I'm going to wait till the end. It'll take about 6 years. And why is that? Because when you get to a 4-0, you've mastered all of the stuff that I talk about that's in the brain, the reaction. You're able to return hard serves. Usually you're able to return most balls in a rally. You can play defense. You're not completely breaking down. You can play offense. You can just go to the USTA and look up what it means to be a 4-0. And then when you get to 4-5, now you're playing more offense. You also have more courage. We think of 4-5. They say if you play Division If you played college tennis, you're automatically a 4-5 in the USTA league. You have enough experience where now, think about this, after 4 years, now you can be aggressive, confidently aggressive. Maybe you have mastered topspin really well, which depth and topspin, and that keeps the players, keeps them back. That's a tactic, you could say, or strategy. You start to use strategy like that. Maybe you have a big serve. You start to have a weapon. You may have a weapon. The guys that got to 4-0 in their 4 years, some of them average guys will never be 4-5s because they can't develop a weapon, because they don't have the courage to do what a 4-5 can do. They don't have the courage to do it. You could say all day long that if they did this, if they did that, if they had this lesson, if they had that lesson, they will never do it. They're not doing it because they're not capable of it. A tennis player, here's the other thing. A tennis player is a complete physiological being. Okay? You can't say that if they had the courage to do it, after 6 years of playing regularly, they don't have the courage. They're never going to get the courage. It's not going to happen. They may not have the killer instinct. They might not be wired that way. They're not going to get there. They're stuck at a 4-0. Now, 6 years you can get to a 4-5 based on all the things. As I left off, developing a weapon, etc. Now 5-0. How are you going to get to be a 5-0? 8 years. 6 to 8 years. You're not going to be a 5-0 without 6 to 8 years of playing tennis. Think of the guys that play Division 1. Let's call the guys that play Division 1 across the board 5-0 plus. Major universities. Oklahoma State, Kentucky, UCLA, Duke, North Carolina, Florida, USC, all these schools, the big football schools, across the board 5-0 plus. Some Division 2 will be 5-0 plus. But we're just going to look at Division 1. And all those guys are usually they're all nationally ranked, which means what? Which means they started at 8 years old. They started at 10 years old. I've never seen anyone play Division 1 tennis. I'm sure it exists. I've seen guys start at 11. I've seen some guys start at 11, and they didn't actually. The only guy I saw start at 11 or 12, he went straight to pro. He didn't even play college. So I've never seen a college player that didn't start 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. So let's say they start at 10. 18, they go to college. 8 years. You can almost forget about the experience between 8 and 10. It's worthless. It's absolutely, it doesn't mean shit. These guys that say, if you look at you look at people when they ask them, like, when did you start? I started when I was 5. Absolutely worthless to start tennis. Specific tennis, I mean, of course, it's not necessarily worthless to start sports, but to start tennis specifically before the age of 10 doesn't mean shit. So let's use 10 as that marker. 8 years, 10 to 18, 8 years, 5-0. You start at 14 and you're pretty good. You're a pretty good athlete. You got a bit natural abilities, etc. Played sports. You start at 14 and you keep. Maybe you go to a Division 2 school or Division 3 school and you play 4 more years. You can be a 5-0. You graduate school. You're 23 years old. You're a 5-0. If you have, at this point, the coaching becomes maybe more important. If you're not picking it up on your own through competition, you may need a little bit of coaching, not lessons, coaching. You need to know when the right time to do something is. If you're not making the right decision making. I'm not, things like that. Essentially we're just talking about decision making. Maybe you learn to be more aggressive, things like that, but it's already there. It's already laid. The foundation's already there. It's just really it's a mind thing. It's a decision. It's a confidence thing. Courage. Experience. Playing experience. You're getting, how many matches are you playing? So 8 years. How do you get to be a tennis master, world-class player, pro, whatever you want to call it? 10 years, 10,000 hours. I'm gonna run. I want this video to record because I'm afraid it's gonna. I haven't been recording because I don't have room on my computer. 10 years, 10,000 hour rule. You ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule? 1,000 hours a year, 10 years, you can be a world class player, provided you're playing against other people who are doing the same thing.